So here's a musician money making trap that I wish I would have avoided earlier. Being a musician, being a producer. So when in my during my younger years, my yester years, as if I'm like super old, but so I started off as a musician. Like I've always been a musician. I was a musician before I was a producer, right? So throughout college, keys was like my main instrument. So I got uh the privilege to play a lot of music, a lot of songs, for a lot of different groups, bands, choirs, um, churches, all of that, right? And it was cool. I think that's where a lot of the development in my craft as a musician happened, which has also allowed me to become great at production. With that, there's like there's also this I don't know, it's a caveat, right? And I think I got out of this trap at a decent time. I was there for a season to be able to like hone my craft, which I think is important. Like take the time to hone your craft and become good at what you do. But then I reached a point to where a shift had to happen, and if I waited too long, and if you wait too long for that shift to happen, you could find yourself in a trap, and possibly just in a situation where you're not the happiest as a musician, or you may not feel the most fulfilled. So what is this trap? So as a musician, I didn't know much about like sync licensing and things like that. Um, I knew about royalties. I knew about getting placements and things like that. Producer fees and all that stuff. I knew that stuff. But at the time, I was like a gigging musician, right? So the cool thing about being a gigging musician is that it can be quick money, right? Like you do the gig, you get paid for the gig as long as the business is right. Um, and then boom, that's it. You go on with your life. For if you have enough gigs that's creating decent income, or you have multiple gigs that create a decent income, it can be great. You're like, yo, I'm living my dream. Like I'm playing music, which is better than doing something else full time. I'm getting paid. I'm able to pay bills and things like that. So yeah, this is great. And yeah, it is for a time being. But then as I started to get a little bit older, I started to really look at like the time that I was spending doing gigs. So let's take, for example, you know, I don't know, a Friday night gig at a jazz lounge or something. So first, in order for me to prepare for that, I have to spend the time practicing the music. If it's a cover band or whatever, we have to take the time to practice the songs that we're performing. That takes time, several hours, days, depending on whether you know the song or not. It takes time to learn the song. Um, and I like to come to rehearsals prepared. So I'm practicing before rehearsal, which is more time. Then you have the rehearsals, you have the time driving to the rehearsal, you have time at rehearsal. This will end up being another 3-4 hours per rehearsal, not including the time spent prior to rehearsal just locking in the material, right? Then you have the day of the gig, another 3-4 hours just going to breaking down, setting up. Shout out to my drummers. If you're a drummer, man, the breakdown setup is crazy. Me as a keyboardist, keyboard stand, amp, and keyboard, I'm done, right? I was usually helping out the drummer finish breaking down because that's how long it took me to pack up. So, just hours upon hours, and we're not even performing our own songs, right? So there's no performance royalties or anything from all this time we're spending. And then once that gig is over, we get paid. That's the only time we're getting paid. The only other way to get paid again is to literally do another gig. There's no residual income from that. So if you really start thinking about like real life, what if something happens to like your hand or something? Like, I mean, I've seen it happen, man. I know people personally, like, one guy, like, he worked in a factory, tragic accident happened, hand got caught, lost his fingers, lost his, like, his hand. That's real life. Now, the one thing you had, the one thing you could rely on to create income from your music is, now taken away. And that puts you in an even worse situation, if you're a full-time musician, especially. So as I got older, I started thinking, man, I spent a lot of time doing these gigs, and I started to learn more and more about getting music placed in TV and film. So fast forward to 2013, landed my first TV placement on Thursday Night Football, NFL Network. I was geeked, man. I was excited. That same track ended up getting used on Fox Sports. I want to say by the time royalty check rolled around, I made a little over $600 in royalties. Now, this is the thing. This was the light bulb that went off in my head. I made $600 passively, right? It took me a total of maybe 3 hours producing and recording the song that got placed. It's called I'm Taking Over. You can look it up. I'm Taking Over, Anthony Clint Jr. It probably took me 3 hours to make that song. I spent that time, one time, sent the song to the publisher. The song got placed and then placed again without me having to do any extra work. And now the publisher, the song now is free, so I can submit that to other publishers now, because at the time it was like an exclusive deal. I couldn't send it anywhere else for the term of that agreement. But I can send that same song that I already did the work for. I don't have to do any more work. Send it to more publishers and continue to get placements. And that song will continue to work for me over and over and over again without me having to practice, rehearse for hours, set all of that extra stuff, extra time spent. I don't even have to worry about it. And that's when the light bulb went off. I was like, yo, it's cool, like, to continue to do these live gigs and things like that, but I need to build this catalog of music that can keep doing this, because this is basically, as a musician, this is like my retirement plan, right? So like, if I get too old to be setting up, breaking down, I know that this music is out here still working for me, and I only had to spend, that one chunk of time to create it. And and it continues to work for me. So I want you to avoid that trap, because I know you can get super comfortable and complacent, especially if you're getting paid decent money to play for, live gigs and corporate gigs and all that stuff. It can be great money, especially when you're young, single, don't have a family. But as you get older and you start to settle down and, your body just starts to get older, you got to think about like your future self. You know what I mean? Like, what does life look like for you years down, decades later? Are you still going to be trying to like set up a whole rig, you know what I mean? And travel and tour and all of that stuff? No, like, you have to start thinking about the later years, and now is the best time to start building a catalog of music that can be used over and over and over again, relicensed over and over and over again, so that you continue to have income coming in without you having to do any extra work. So that's when I decided to really like shift and focus way more on producing music for TV and film than, focusing on, just gigs, the gig life. Because it can get tiring eventually. It can get exhausting, man, and you just want to chill out for a little bit. And this will eventually allow you to do that, and continue to reap the benefits. So if you want to learn how to get your music placed in TV and film, how to produce it, pitch it, prepare it, who to reach out to, what to say, download my free Sync Producer Quick Start Guide. The link is in the description. I'll also leave it in the comments. I'll pin it in the comments as well. Download that. It's going to give you the steps I took to start getting my music placed in TV and film, exactly what I did to get that first TV placement. So you can start building, passive residual income from something you only have to sit down and do one time. All right. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.